listening to you.
What's up guys, my name is Amel, and today I'm going to be walking you through my latest remix, Bad Habits by Ed Sheeran. Let's get into it. Alright, so here we are in FL Studio, and this is a full project. The full project is 44 tracks, so it's not actually a massive track. I've done a lot of tracks that are a lot bigger than this, and mostly the reason I kind of made this was a fairly quick remake, I would say, and also I didn't necessarily want to put a ton of time and effort because since it's a bootleg, it's not going to have any chance of being released on any sort of record label as an official thing or anything like that. Obviously, I took my time and created the song how I wanted and made it the best I could, but I just wasn't like top of the priority list, if that makes sense. Anyway, let's jump right into it. I'm going to start out with the drop, run you through that, and then I may go over some of the other elements really quickly at the end. What you just heard there is actually the final version of the drop, of course, and the reason why I say the final version is a lot of times I start, or at least when I'm making my own songs, I start out and the whole song starts with the drop. So I have a melody in my head, I make the melody, and then I build the rest of the song around it, try to find a vocal, make a break, all that stuff. And this was a little bit different. I heard the song, and I liked the tempo, I liked the song, I knew I wanted to do a remix of it. But I couldn't find a good melody. So what I've actually done here is you can see I have 4 different, these are just exports, and I did a lot of experiment. I think I just did these more before. Maybe I did 1 or 2 more melody ideas that I came up with, and I didn't like it very well. So I'm going to play you these, and you can tell me what you think, if you think I should have worked with one of these melodies or if you like the one I came up with in the end. That's the first one. What's up, Retrovision? So that one was pretty, it sounded a lot like Retrovision. The sound design and everything is pretty shitty in this because I didn't take much time. But I don't know, it just sounded a little cheesy. Same thing there. I don't know, there's a certain feeling of a song where it's happy, but it's very hard to make a song that's happy but not cheesy. It's kind of a fine line, and I think this melody is personally, I just think it's a little cheesy. Same kind of thing. I think it could have worked, but it just didn't feel right. So finally I came up with this melody here that you hear in the end, and as soon as I came up with that, I just knew. I was like, it clicked. I was like, okay, that's the one. And then, of course, I started working on it and fleshed everything out, and that's the one I went with. Without further ado, let's jump right into the drop and check out all the individual elements. Okay, so first off, we have the lead, and this is a bit different sound than I maybe normally make. It sounds kind of a bit like mesto-y, if you will. And basically what it is it's just kind of a bit low cut or high cut, saws. So it's taking a saw, sort of chopping off the top end of the sound, and then I distorted it a lot. So here's the first lead, and this is, as you can see, 4 saw layers here, nothing in the second oscillator, and then I have some white noise. And then you can see I have this on a cutoff, so it cuts off a lot of the high frequencies, but then I distort quite a bit. I have looks like clip distortion on here in silence, and this gives it kind of a lot of mid sounds, kind of this warm, I like to call it a round sound. To me it sounds kind of like it's this round, it's not like this piercing high end. So you can hear most of these sounds are just, they're not super bright, they're a bit more kind of distorted and in the mids. And then as you'll see, if we look at all these effects, you can see I really boosted a lot of the mids, even cut a little bit of the highs here. Added some distortion, which kind of gives it, if you don't know how distortion works, it kind of chops it off. So let's say you have a perfect sine wave, it'll actually chop it off and make it almost not quite into a square wave, but that's what sort of gives it that kind of round square wave sort of feel. I actually have more distortion here. I love this plugin. I think I mentioned it in one of my other videos, but if you guys don't have it, check out Serum Effects, because it has like a million different options in here. You can do phasers and choruses, and even in the distortion unit, you can there's a ton of different things. I use this a lot for distortion. Reverb, which is controlled by this peak controller. Camel Crusher, I love this plugin. I actually don't use much distortion on it. I guess I have a little bit. But this plugin just really helps kind of fill out sounds, give it that sort of nice crunchy texture. And then more EQ. I actually ended up boosting a little bit of highs at the end. Effects, yeah, nothing there. So yeah, that's a lot of mids in the lead. And then the other thing that kind of gives it its character is these pitch bends and volume automations. So pitch bend is self-explanatory, just going like this. Kind of these little vibrato wobbles, makes it sound really cool. And then what I did here is I took the volume and if you open it up, I automated the LFO. And so that gives it this sound here. Sort of up and down kind of wavy feel. And then I think that's pretty much it. Chords are pretty basic. As you can hear, it's just a bunch of saw synths. It's just saws and white noise. Let's see where they are. And normally I actually do a lot more layers than this. I don't know why I just did 2, honestly. But here's the first one. And the second one. So I just kind of did these like wide, a bit more detuned saws, and then I use this Garrick saw, which is kind of just, I don't know, just gives it a little more body in the center. And then what I did to these chords, and what I often do, is I like to distort it. So I have a little bit of EQ here, tiny bit of OTT, boosting a little bit of mids, and then I use some distortion, and that's what kind of gives it this crunchy sort of feel. I used overdrive and then this plugin called Crush, which is free, so check it out. And as you can see, I haven't mixed it in all the way. If you mix it in all the way, it would sound really crappy like this. So don't do that. But if you just mix it in a little bit, it gives it a lot of texture. So here's without any distortion. I don't know, to me, without any distortion, it's just lacking a lot of character. It just sounds pretty basic, and it's lacking texture or something like that. And then I think the rest of these just a filter, and that's sort of it. So pretty simple for the chords, honestly, but it did the job, and mixed with the leads, it just fills out the whole frequency spectrum. Together it sounds like this. Dope. Okay, moving on to the bass. We have our bass and then our sub bass, and again, pretty simple. As you can see, I don't really have a lot of my tracks, I'll put a lot of growls and sort of little bass shots and stuff, and this is just the bass, and it sounds like this. So it's pretty simple, and the thing that gives it sort of its texture and makes it interesting is, first of all, these pitch bends. So you can hear it goes up in certain spots, right? So that's one thing. And then honestly, the thing that makes it interesting to me mostly is, I'm not sure which one of these it is. Yeah, it's just this first one here. This is kind of my main one. This is one I called Williams Bit Crush. And it's kind of this fat centered saw, and then I went in with the distortion and used, they call it downsample in Serum, but it's basically bit crushing. You can turn it way up. So you can hear, as you mess around with that, you just get all sorts of different textures, and I think it's a super cool sound. So that's what sort of gives it the main interesting sound to the bass. And then this is a sub, super basic sub, just a little bit of distortion, I think, in the sub to sort of give it some body. Yeah, and then while we're here, we'll look at the effects on this. Pretty simple, cutting some sort of low mids and mid highs. Tiny bit of OTT, and as you can see, when I typically use OTT, it's mostly to do something specific rather than just compress it together. So in this case, I've actually cut a lot of the highs and boosted a decent amount of the mids as well. So without it and with it, I guess it doesn't make a huge difference. But anyway, yeah, it's only on like 44%. Got some Camel Crusher on here, which is really pretty low in the mix. A little sausage fattener and another EQ, kind of chopping off the unnecessary highs. That's not too complicated, and honestly, that's it for instruments. Okay, I'm going to mute the instruments here, and now we will go to drums. And I think what makes the drums in this track, here's a kick, obviously, kick and clap. And then I've added lots of little like kind of claps and reverses and just little effects so it doesn't get too boring. So altogether that sounds like this. And it sort of sounds full, but it's really not too complicated. I just have this reverse clap here and then a couple little reverses and growl things here. And then that kind of repeats. And then in the second half, we go here and it's just some shaker loops and claps that I've made. In the second half, we also have a couple more elements. We have this little riser. And we have a couple transitions. It's overall really pretty simple. So I'm going to highlight everything again, and we'll take one more listen to the full drop, and then I'll just jump into a couple other small elements of the track.
My bad habits lead to you.
Okay, so one of my favorite things, and this can happen during the process of building the track or even at the end of the track, I like to do it, and that is going like this, mute the vocals, and you can really hear a lot more of the elements going on and get a lot of detail. So I'm just going to play just the instruments without the vocals, starting at the beginning, and let you hear what it sounds like. Yeah, so that's what the sort of first verse break sounds like. Really what makes this part is this guitar. I found this sample, I think it's from Splice. And pretty simple sample, and it just kind of happened to work with the chord progression. So that was super lucky. And then I added these sort of saw plucks underneath it. Pretty simple stuff. I mean, I just made these all in Sylenth. Yeah, I think it's just even one thing. Yeah, just a cutoff saw, but you add a little automation clip on this filter and it makes it pretty interesting. Along with the guitar, it sounds super dope. Couple little just background elements here. Just very low in the mix. And then this drone that goes all the way through. Just give it some ambience, and then down here I have a bass line. So pretty simple stuff. And then I don't know, with this track I wanted the acapella to shine through because it's Ed Sheeran and it's just such a good acapella. And I just kind of like that very chill, a little bit dark vibe. It sounds pretty dark to me. And then coming down into the next part, then this kick sort of comes in and it feels a little bit heavy. It's just like boom, boom, boom. Gives it rhythm, lets you know some energy's coming in. But then what I did is coming up here, the energy builds, and then I just let it fall all away again. So it sounds like this. And it falls away. The way I did this, I think this is probably one of the coolest elements, this horn. And then accompanying that, I also have these strings which kind of filter in. So the tension builds, And then instead of going to like these big drop claps and everything that I could have done, I just wanted to, again, let the vocal shine because it's such an incredible acapella. And so I just have a couple pads. I think, yep, these are Serum. Right, so it just totally chills out. And then I also have the strings come back in. Pretty low in the mix. Those go together with the pads. And then I have this really cool, it's cashmere, this background pluck, which just goes on the offbeat. And all together, it sounds like this. So hopefully you guys learned something valuable today. Hopefully you picked up on a couple little tips. If I missed anything or if you have any questions about production or this song in particular, feel free to drop those in the comments below. I also will have a free download of the song in the description, as well as I'm also going to have a free download of the instrumental version of the song. I don't know if it's just me as a producer, but I love having a song and then taking the vocal away, and you can hear like all of the little elements without having the vocal. So both of those will be available down in the description, totally free download. And I think that's pretty much it. I'll also link the official video that I created, so you can go hear the song, listen to it on YouTube, all that good stuff. All right, guys, well, that pretty much wraps up this video. I will be back very soon with more remakes and tutorials and all sorts of good stuff. And again, I just want to remind you, I also have just dropped my new website with a sick Brooks sound pack. So if you haven't seen that, go check that out. I'll link that one down in the description too. And that should be it. So I will catch you guys back in the next video. Signing off. Peace out.
My bad habits lead to you.